Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm back from Cannes, and I'm Ewan Graf, and I'm joined, as always, by Lachlan Thiele.
On episode 186, I wrote the show notes this week, so who knows what will be said next? Isn't that right, Ewan? Also, welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. We had a week off. Did I mention I went to Cannes? Maybe you didn't notice from my hat and my snooty little demeanor. That's condescending. And Lachlan wrote in the show notes that I'm going to flex, and I guess that's what I'm doing, because I went to the festival.
Shocker. Didn't see that one coming. Finally, this week, Mad Max isn't that mad in this film. In fact, he isn't in this film at all, except for maybe like a little moment. But let's focus on Furiosa then, in this Mad Max Saga. The film debuted at Cannes. Ewan saw it there with the French. I saw it here in its native land, down under. Does it roar? Does it flop? After its rocky production timeline, find out later in our coverage of Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
Yeah, so let's get the beers ready and have a good time with this week's episode. It's a celebratory one. I've had a good week, 2 weeks, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you once again. It's been a minute. But let's cue the intro and get into the show.
We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is
me
gonna
a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
Lachlan, welcome back. This is a bit of a treat, and I would love to be sponsored by them, but I'm not. This is my favorite beer. It's like an alcoholic ginger beer, and I'm going to be sipping that because we'll have a look at some of the news items that this week you assembled. So I'm looking forward to what happened, because I ended up watching 64 films in Cannes. So I was incredibly busy just with watching films, and we're doing our coverage later on. If you want to skip ahead to anything in what we've been watching, I'll briefly go over the Cannes stuff, mainly the flops and the biggest hits and what won, stuff like that, to catch Lachlan up to speed. For a full breakdown, you'll have to wait a couple more days. I'll make a video going over every single film I've watched, but it's going to take a while because it's over 60 of them. And then also be like short reviews on my own channel. But you got to give me a bit of time. I'm a bit exhausted. I've had like an average of 4 to 5 hours sleep for the last 2 weeks. But yeah, Lachlan, hit me with the news. What's been happening?
That is wild. That's ridiculous. All right. So there's been a lot of news over the past 2 weeks that we've been away, but I thought I would kind of put together some of the big ones, the fun ones, etc., etc. And I've got some little quick news. But let's start off with some really unfortunate news. If you've been paying any attention to the games industry recently, layoffs have become more and more common, and it's been happening all around. It has now hit the film industry. Pixar has laid off 14% of their staff. This is long expected after Pixar has had some recent endeavors that have pretty much all flopped at the box office. But more importantly, with the failed returns throughout COVID, with many of their films getting released on Disney Plus exclusives, there was just a time waiting game at this point as to when jobs would be cut. There's a lot of discussions going online at the moment with why a company like Pixar, which, remember, is owned by Disney, quite a profitable entertainment company, isn't able to take these losses. So why and how is Pixar, cutting 14% of its staff with being owned by such a big company? More so, there is also conversation of Pixar not being the same company that it once was, and I thought this was quite an interesting conversation, Ewan, just to have really quickly. Is Pixar now made by people who are making Pixar movies? So they're not going, let's make an animated movie. They're going, let's make a Pixar movie, which is why so many of these recent Pixar movies are quite, quote unquote, the same. Or should we kind of push this less towards the creators making these movies and more towards the quantity that they're putting out and the lesser quality that you're getting on Disney Plus as a streaming service?
It's a hard thing to say. So they're only laying off Pixar people. They're not laying off any from Disney Animation. Am I getting
From
that
what
correct?
I've seen, it was Pixar.
I feel like they already kind of went on a backstep when it comes to Disney animated films per year. They never had like the amount of output that Pixar had back in its heyday, but definitely like you put down maybe this like an oversaturation with Pixar films lately, that the bankable sequels haven't had that return yet, that the brand has been diluted with having straight to streaming releases that especially animated films are hurt by going to streaming directly, because as we've seen with Elemental, and I think during COVID still, when The Croods 2 came out, that was like in theaters for half a year and ended up grossing a couple $100 million. These animated films that are solid for a family that like you can take your kids to, they, after like being in cinemas for a long while, they have a huge return, and Elemental ended up making 500 million, I think, at the box office after it had like a pretty horrible opening. I feel like in most of the businesses, we just had this is more economy, I guess, but we've been like in a growth thing where like everything is seemingly just going up and up and up and up, and that's just not sustainable. And I feel like a lot of companies have just overgrown the potential of what they were capable of holding. Because when you have more people on, then it seems like to the outside that you're more successful. Like a lot of streaming services don't even make a return. All of that stuff, just creating a huge bubble that now with inflation becoming more and more of a problem, you're just going to feel the repercussions of. And it sucks. 14% is a lot of people, man. 14%.
Yeah, it's a big hit.
And I don't think the like Pixar overall has lost its touch. It's just that I feel like they're still on the forefront of creating the most visually appealing 3D animated stuff. Like Elemental looked incredible. I think Luca looked great. They are testing out different things with like these elements that they used in Elemental. In Luca, they got to play around with like water stuff. I feel like they, I guess apart from Toy Story, which is pretty much, but like the latest one also looked stunning. I feel like they still make the prettiest stuff. It's just that it feels like you have Pixar figured out. You kind of know how it's going to play out, how it's going to pull at your heartstrings. And yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to gauge what an audience is going to do next. I just realized that in Gun as well, like how some people reacted to some films that I was like, how do you see anything valuable in that? And then others where they don't see it. It's always a guessing game. But laying off staff is not a good sign for the company overall. Like, do you think long term this could be like we get less Pixar films, we only get like continuations of the established franchises, and the original side of Pixar is like slowly dying off more and more? Or what do you think is gonna happen?
It's hard to say. I think there will always be a place for original ideas at Pixar, and I think that they even sequels do take hits sometimes. Like Monsters Inc. University, I don't think ever will reach the heights that Monsters Inc. did.
No.
And Toy Story, not a similar thing. They're still quite successful, but I don't think that they're held, especially the recent ones, they're held into the same level that
Finding
Toy Story
Dory
1 and 2.
was
Finding Dory,
quite
same
disliked.
thing. So they could easily go after the same IP, and I don't think it's the original IP that's ruining it. Who knows? But I don't want this to be the first domino in this industry. It was really early on, ages ago, where the first couple of games cuts were happening in the games industry, job cuts were happening in the games industry, and now it's every week.
It's horrible, yeah.
I don't want to see this happening in the movie industry. It's just more jobs, and it's just in an entertainment field. If the easiest way to cut costs is cut people, but that's going to have an immediate, and it doesn't matter what level of a company it is, it's going to have an immediate effect on quality. And I think that's going to be the worst part is you've just lost 14% of a company, and it might not be animators, it might not be screenwriters or et cetera, et cetera. It might just be the person who go and gets coffee for these particular people, right? A runner, right?
Yeah.
But that's one person that is part of a workflow. And once you've broken that flow, you're going to have to reestablish the norms of that company. So it sucks to see so many people let go. And, the worst part about this is people have lost their jobs. It doesn't matter about the conversation about what's going to happen to Pixar. The most important thing is 14% of that company just lost their job. And now they're probably going to have to find a new one.
Well, another thing that sucks about this is it's not like Pixar has made bad decisions, bad returns. Now they have to fire people. It's maybe that's part of it, but it's also just economy stuff. So that means these people who are now looking for a job are way less likely to find something now. That's why all of these layoffs are hitting like really hard at the moment. And yeah, a bit more than maybe they would in a better, more stable environment. I mean, I've talked to a bit more people now that I didn't have you with me this year. I was forced to, I guess, talk a bit more to other people, so I'm not like totally alone. And from a lot of people, I heard like the layoffs and the amount of not sustainable like journalism. You can't do it. It's like basically none of them are able to do it full time, and the ones that they do, they work their asses off. They're constantly writing, they're constantly doing something. And it's not really a healthy work-life balance. But that's kind of the only way that like film criticism in that form that it exists, I guess, still now is able to survive. But yeah, this doesn't really have to do anything with that. But it's just, yeah, man, layoffs always a tough thing.
Layoffs always suck.
Yeah.
But going from one animation company to another, talking about quality over quantity, these guys are definitely the quality over quantity kings. And you said that Pixar makes some of the most beautiful films in the animated space. I wonder what you think of this company, Studio Ghibli. CGI, okay, fair, no worries. Studio Ghibli received an honorary Palme d'Or award at the Cannes Film Festival this year in recognition of their years of work in creating a fantastic, absolutely, and I think you would agree, fantastic set of films that might be the best. Obviously, because I just won a Palme d'Or, but they have created some of the most incredible pieces of art in the animated space. And I think that it's an absolute deserved win by them, or deserved award for them, because I think they have made some fantastic masterpieces, and I think that you would agree as well, Ewan. They are creators, they are artsmen, they are fantastic at everything they do. And there's not really much to say. That was just a lovely piece of news that I found when I was reading it. And did you get to see any of this when you were there, or are you too busy watching a 3.5-star movie?
I wouldn't say it's more like 2.5 for most of them, unfortunately. Well, we'll get into that
Yikes.
in a bit. No, I heard that it's the first time that not a singular person was honored with the Palme d'Or like this. It's never gone out to like a studio or anything. So this is a bit unique in the way that they did this. And I heard that I think Goro Miyazaki, the son of Hayao, he took he like was the one who received it. I saw some clips from it, but I wasn't like there for it. I saw some famous people around, but I didn't see anyone from Studio Ghibli.
Of course, Goro Miyazaki, the fantastic director of Earwig and the Witch, Studio Ghibli's finest work.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from that one, Adam Wingard will not be returning to Godzilla and King Kong's sequel film that will be coming up very shortly. He directed the last two films, and I have to say they were fairly successful and quite fun. So the guy definitely knows how to do these films. It's due to scheduling conflicts. He does have his own film coming up. It's a horror film, and the studio already wants to pump out another sequel in this franchise. So my question for you, Ewan, we've had two Godzilla films in the past 12 months, Godzilla x Kong and Godzilla -1. Is it already too soon for another Zilla x Kong film, or are we just getting started in this Marvel Cinematic Universe period?
So I do have a suggestion of what the next movie should be about.
Oh God.
So, you know, we are currently in like a housing crisis worldwide, especially like in Australia. Canada is where it's really bad. In the States as well, just kind of worldwide, there's a lot of issues when it comes to housing. And Godzilla isn't helping. You know, he's destroying a lot of homes. So how about we take this onto the corporate fighting Godzilla front, and we have Godzilla versus Zillow, the real estate company, and we let those two duke it out. Maybe, what about that? So that maybe could be done and written by AI, which would help. It would be a Adam win-loss overall, instead of a Wingard. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. It would be a loss guard. Fucked up the bit. But
look, I'm just gonna say, I think it's too many films too quickly, Ewan. I'm gonna take this from you because I'm gonna give you the free hall pass. You have just come off a plane less than 2 hours ago, flying back from France. You're tired. You've watched what was it, like 10 films while you're at Cannes? Like, that's crazy. You're incredible
Sure,
for
just
doing
a 10.
that. You've been busy, so I get that. So
Uh-huh.
yes, we agree. We don't need one right away. Maybe we should wait. Maybe you should get someone on it, but who knows? Maybe, here's my theory, Adam Wingard can't direct it, and Quentin Tarantino just dropped his film critic film, so why don't we get Quentin Tarantino to make a Zilla film? Hey, just throwing that out there into the space. Could happen. In other news, the last part of big news that I've got written down here, Emily Stone and Jesse Plemons are planning to reunite with Yorgos Lanthimos in Bugonia, I believe it's called. This will be Stone's third film in a row with Lanthimos. And do we have a little actress director collaboration thing happening here, like a De Niro Scorsese situation where Lanthimos and Stone just want to work with each other?
Yeah.
And yeah, you see all kinds of kindness, right? And
did,
apparently it's spectacular in terms of performances from these two.
Yeah. Jesse Plemons won the Best Actor award for it, and deservedly so.
Yep.
I think it was probably the best performance from Gunn. It's a weird fucking movie. Like it's less
Sweet.
accessible compared to The Lobster, compared to The Favorite and Poor Things. It's more in the style of Dogtooth, and everyone who's in it is a ton of fun. Jesse Plemons is an incredible actor. Same goes for Emily Stone. So yeah, I'm looking forward to them working together a bit more. Because they work together really well. She gets the assignment. Sorry, Emma Stone. You wrote down Emily Stone, and I was like looking at it, and I read it, and I was like, wait, her name is not Emily Stone.
I wrote down Emily Stone because that's her name, and there was a recent thing that came out about
she changed her name?
Emma Stone wanting to be known as Emily Stone. Now, that could just be an article that I read, but I thought I'd be the nice guy and say Emily Stone. But you know what? If you want to keep calling Emily Stone Emma Stone and be part of the problem, you can be part. Look, man. You watched 9 films in Cannes. You're super tired. I understand if you missed that piece of news. We can move on. So,
I mean, I do have one piece of news item that I wanted to present to you, and it's a franchise that you quite like, maybe even more than I do, and that's yet another spin-off, I guess, that's being produced in the John Wick universe, even before the Ana de Armas, what's it called? Like Barbarella? No, it's
Ballerina.
Ballerina, that's what it's called. Before that one comes out, I think later this year, or maybe sometime next year, the continuation of a character that we saw in the 4th chapter of John Wick, with Donnie and Caine, is getting a continuation, and slight spoilers here, it's teased that there's a bit more story to tell with him there, and it kind of abruptly ends before there's a conclusion to it, and apparently they're going to continue his story. But the Continental, I never watched it because it got pretty bad reviews, and it was at a time where I didn't have time for it. Lachlan, I think you didn't watch it either. This expansion, though, is that something that you're interested in?
Yeah, I'll watch him. I'll watch Donnie Yen do anything.
Yeah, make him like fold laundry. Would you watch that? And he chops it up.
I'd watch him fold laundry. I hope he becomes deaf as well. I'd love to see him get more like handicaps in the film instead of just being blind. Like, make him a blind, deaf, mute assassin. I'd love to watch that.
He should be in like a wheelchair, and in like he spins
give me that.
around. Yeah, he does like crazy shit. He just loses all of his limbs. Yeah. But yeah, that's the only thing I had.
All right. Other than that, in some quick news, Robert Friend has been signed on in the leading role in the new Jurassic World movie, which is really cool to see. And another bit of casting news: Ayo Edebiri signed onto Luca Guadagnino's The Hunt. So got some casting news out there, which is really nice to see. We had a couple of trailers launched. There were a whole bunch, but I think there was 3 to kind of note. The first one is we finally got a proper look at Longlegs.
Yeah.
I have to say, this marketing campaign for this film is absolutely fantastic with the little teaser that they've done. And even this trailer doesn't tell you a whole lot. It tells you some things, which for those who have seen it, you can kind of see that there's multiple aspect ratios. My theory on that is different timelines, different aspect ratios. I'm thinking that the main character and this is my theory. The main character, who is the FBI agent, experienced it when she was younger with this creepy guy, is now investigating it when she's older. So those are the different aspect ratio things. That's in my head. That's sort of like the feeling that I got with the trailer. Did you see the Longlegs trailer, Ewan? What'd you think?
I did. I think it still captures the tone that it had with like the more mysterious, like shorter teasers. And I'm interested. So Nick Cage is in this one, right?
He is. He still hasn't been seen in any of the trailers, which I think is, again, fantastic marketing, just building him up. You see the character. He's not a spider. Oh my god! What if this is a Madam Web spin-off? Oh my god! Oh, speaking of, Madam Web comes out tomorrow on
4K
on DVD. Yeah.
Wow.
Guess what I'm gonna have next week?
Guess what? There's no big movie coming out next week, so guess what we're covering next week?
Morbius.
Morbius, finally, a double feature worth considering. Morbius and Madam Web. Looks great. I'll be there Thursday when this comes out. I hope it's getting a release. Neon is usually doing the English markets only, so I hope, like, other things, like, for example, they won the Palme d'Or 5 years in a row in Cannes now. It's crazy. But their movies don't really have Swiss distribution. And I don't know when I'm going to get to see Longlegs. So I hope it's coming out on VOD sooner or later if it doesn't get a theatrical release. But I'm keen. It looks very intriguing.
It seems to have its theatrical release. Belgium, France coming out on the 10th of July. Australia, Brazil, Argentina, Netherlands are going to be getting it on the 11th of July. And then you've got your wider release in the States, North America, Canada, Poland, Cambodia on the 12th of July. So, yeah, you could just pop over to Germany on the 29th of August if you wanted to.
I've done that for Knives Out. I went to Germany to go see that one. I don't know if I'll do it again.
So you could definitely do it.
I could do it, yeah. We'll see. We'll see if I end up doing it or just wait. But yeah, I'll be there.
We also had... Oh, you'll be there. We also had a trailer again for Wicked. I wanted to bring this up. We don't really do multiple trailers when they get released, but
yeah,
this is an interesting one, and I wanted to bring it up because obviously
it's different than the first one.
It's different than the first one. It feels different. It felt like it was done by a different company. For those who don't know, generally a company is hired in to advertise the film, and this trailer was done at a way better quality than what the first one was. So I thought I'd bring it up because you see a lot more, you get a lot more. Do you think this is going to be, and I think I'm quoting you on this one from a previous episode, the greatest movie of the year?
Sure, in the category of 1.5 star movies, maybe. It could be the greatest.
I'm surprised you're even giving it 1 star. I can't wait. Are you not excited
to tease
for this film?
There was one movie that got a 0.5 star for Out of Gun, and we'll get to that in a bit. Yeah, and it's a big one.
I know what it is because I've already seen your rating for it, so it's not a shocker to me. But Wicked comes from John M. Chu, so In the Heights, Now You See Me Too, G.I. Joe, Retaliation.
Look,
Step Up 3.
Musicals can be fun when the music's good. He's at In the Heights. Like, the tracks there are incredible. His direction for that movie was a bit lackluster. I think he's also... Didn't he do Crazy Rich Asians, or was that someone else?
Yes, he did.
His direction style, I feel like, is pretty bland and boring. And for something like Wicked, where it doesn't seem like it's that innovative, it's that crazy, for a musical where you could maybe go bigger. I'm not familiar, I haven't seen it ever live, but I feel like you could do more with it. This second trailer has me about the same amount of not intrigued as the first one did.
Yeah, I'm excited because Ariana Grande is obviously in this film, and thanks to Letterboxd, I can see what other movies I have seen her in.
She's been in.
And I have seen her in Don't Look Up as Riley Beener. I've seen her in Men in Black International as Alien on TV Monitor, in brackets, uncredited. And then I've seen her in Zoolander 2 as Latex BDSM. So I can't wait to see what happens in my 4th Ariana Grande movie. Wow, as the Gleaner, whatever her name is. I don't know Wicked, unfortunately.
Glinda.
But yeah, look, I can't wait. I honestly, I think this is possibly my most anticipated movie for the year.
Sure. I feel like you're being very, very like upfront and real about this. And I can't wait for you to give you a whole list of musicals to watch to prepare for this, because you're definitely
Thank you.
like into those, right? You love them, you
Me? Musicals?
sing along,
Yeah.
you dance, he even dances. That's something that you guys don't know about Lachlan. He gets
Yep,
up and
upside
dances.
down.
Yep.
Yep,
Well,
I sometimes
no,
I can
you
sometimes
dance normally. You're just in Australia. Again, Lachlan.
Are you just telling me to dance? Are you trying to get me to dance?
I'm not. No, we covered Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
I have
2 weeks ago.
I have seen
I can't
Step
say
Up
Dance
3.
Monkey this week. All right, that's not okay.
Sorry,
But
Step Up 3D.
that's 3D. Well, it comes to you in 3 dimensions. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
forgive
so
me.
good it
Forgive
kicks
me.
you in the face.
Last trailer on the list, Never Let Go. This is a fun one. It's
Okay.
Halle Berry as a overprotective helicopter parent in like a post-apocalyptic place. They're in a house. You have to be attached by a rope. If you let go of the rope, you start tripping out on LSD. I think that's the premise of the film. Yeah, what do you think, Ewan? It's an interesting trailer.
Yeah. I only skipped through this one, so they gotta be attached to the house at all times. Is that the premise?
They have to be attached to the house.
So it's like a big old metaphor of like, hey, you gotta cut loose to actually, and it's gonna, like in third act, it's gonna reveal that actually they have to untie themselves to like fulfill their destiny, and they'll grow bigger by doing that. But 2 of them are going to die, something like that.
Sure.
I haven't seen the movie, by the way.
That's definitely what I got from it. Did you? Okay, so you obviously didn't fully watch the trailer. There seems to it's got horror vibes to it. I'm keen. It looks good. As I said this a few weeks ago, I am not a horror guy, but horror movies have been really intriguing me recently.
Yeah.
Or at least thriller movies like this, because you don't really see the scares that much. They kind of all seem psychological, and right now I'm super into my cosmic horror, so I'm keen for this. I'll watch this. It's from the producers of Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Okay.
a fantastic series.
Yeah. I can't tell if there's like a hint of sarcasm in that or not. But hey, I feel like
don't
the
know what
production
sarcasm is.
It's just like normal cadence of speak when you're an Aussie. I feel like the production design is a standout from the trailer. It feels like they are using the limited space of whatever the premise of this world is, and fill it in and focus on them. If it works well enough with the kids, that they are believable. Because we just had Arcadian, which had a similar premise of post-apocalypse with Nick Cage, 2 of his teenage sons, basically like very similar-ish. And it's not like it's an untapped genre of like, you got one veteran actor and then like you got their kids, usually 1 or 2 of them, they're protective of them. It's like this action, sci-fi, thriller-ish. It's like that type of movie gets made and forgotten quite often. Nothing that really stands out to me that I'm gonna remember this in a couple of years' time. But hey, the thing is, I just watched 64 movies. I can't go here and tell you that I won't watch the free trailers, the movies for the free trailers we just watched. I can't do that. It's just not gonna happen.
That's okay.
I'll watch
it's
it.
okay. You
I
watch a lot
would
of
be a
movies
fraud.
while you're in Cannes. 8 movies is a lot to movies to watch in a few weeks. So like I'll give you that.
I feel like it's
so,
constantly going down.
I don't know what you're
Too
talking
much.
about. This is the same director as Crawl, as Oxygen from the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Who did the Hills Have Eyes remake in 2006, Horns with Daniel Radcliffe in 2013,
So a
and
horror
obviously
director.
Piranha 3D in 2010. So there are some good films in that filmography. I actually really enjoyed Crawl when it came out. I think I've got it still on DVD. It was
It's
a lot
good,
of
yeah.
fun. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we've got a hitter on our hands here and it's going to be successful. But other than that, that's the end of the news. Ewan,
Yeah.
we've got quite a bit to get through with what we've been watching.
Yes.
Should we start doing that?
Yeah, but well, before we do that, leave us a rating on Spotify and consider subscribing on YouTube, leaving a like, maybe even using the links on Amazon to purchase some stuff. We get a kickback from it. Any sort of support is greatly appreciated because like there's a big deficit in my bank account right now from going to Gun, and we do this kind of pro bono here, and we're doing it for the fans, for the BTS fans. Like when it's not even focusing, that makes it even better. They're
Yeah,
like,
I know.
they don't have the context for this. Makes it funnier to me. Let's just not give them the context, but I'll leave it in.
Yeah, it's not.
But let's get to the stuff that we've been watching this week. All right, Lachlan, before I talk about all the stuff from Gunn, not everything, I'll keep it short. You ended up watching a whole franchise of movies.
Yep, a whole franchise, and I finally caught up on a sequel that I've been wanting to watch for a while. First of all, I'll start off with that sequel. I watched A Force of Nature, The Dry 2, finally caught up on that, had some time, and I have to say, I didn't love it or hate it as much as I did with the original. It's kind of on the same level for that as me. There are parts that are better, there are parts that are worse, that make it just sort of the same. So for me, I thought it was fun. I actually thought it was an enjoyable thriller, crime drama, revealing me all of the little hints and clues and putting it and gluing it together, and it was actually quite fun. So I gave that like a 3 stars out of 5. So I'll sit there and go, sweet. Same as the first one. Yeah, I had a good time with it, and yeah, it was enjoyable. But more importantly, over the past, what has it been, 2 weeks? I have not had a lot of time on my hands, but I have had enough time to watch all, that's right, Ewan, you texted me beforehand, but I squeezed it in before we started, all of the Mad Max movies, because Furiosa was coming out. So I decided, let's watch this in chronological order, which means I have watched 1, 2, Beyond Thunderdome, Furiosa, and now, just before I watched the start of the podcast, I watched Fury Road. All of these were rewatches. I've watched these ages ago, but this is the first time actually logging them on Letterboxd, and I realized I didn't log them all as rewatches. I logged them just as like first timers, but I logged Mad Max as a watch. But anyway, long story short, rookie mistake there. Long story short, absolutely fantastic series. Even at its low points with Beyond Thunderdome, Thunderdome still has its fantastic qualities to it. That being production design, that being just overall fun factor. It's just a lot of ideas on Thunderdome that aren't there. But Mad Max, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Mad Max 2, 4.5 out of 5. Beyond Thunderdome, 2.5. I gave Furiosa my score, which I'll get later. And as always, I gave Fury Road 5 stars. Fantastic film. We'll get into some Fury Road conversation later, but you recently watched all of these for the first time? Mad Max 2 and Beyond Thunderdome?
Yeah, the first 3, and I feel the same way about them as you do. Going for like second is the best of the first 3, followed by 1 and then 3. I think our ratings are pretty similar as well. Just 2 is just so amazing with the action towards the end. It's a ton of fun. Be on the lookout. We'll like dive a bit deeper into the franchise on another video. It's coming out this week on the channel. But yeah, just a great series of films that I hope they are going to continue even further with the sequel to Fury Road.
Well, yeah, I think Miller does want to make another one, so I'll be speaking. Also, all by George Miller.
Yeah.
Every single one. No one else has been given the mantle to make a Mad Max film.
No one should. I feel like this should stay in his hands, and once he's gone, Mad Max.
There another series of 5 films in one. So like let's just say a whole saga. Have there been another saga made by one director?
Not really. You can make the argument for George Lucas being a part of Star Wars, but he didn't direct the films.
But he didn't direct the last.
He didn't direct.
You directed the prequels.
Not even the original. He directed the prequel, but yeah, I think he didn't. I don't know if he directed the first one, A New Hope. He definitely didn't direct Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if there's like someone comparable to George Miller. Sorry, it's confusing because George Lucas got an honorary Oscar and he got it handed to him by Francis Ford Coppola, and then also George Miller was there. I feel like I've never met him in person. I didn't see him in Gunn. But he seems to be such a pleasant guy, and from the interviews that they like talk about him, well, like how particular he is with his vision, that like only he has his vision, and he's so involved with every single production design detail. Just shows that like he said that like the first one was so incredibly hard to do, and he asked another filmmaking friend, like, I don't think filmmaking is for me. This was so incredibly hard, and it was like, no, mate, it's all of the films. It's always that hard. I feel like yes and no. It's when you make it on the level that he has done these Mad Max films on, like the amount of craft and care that goes into building a world that is believable. It's such a, it's not easy. It's so incredibly hard. And yeah, it's not like, you know, his filmography isn't that vast. He's made like another film, 3,000 Years of Longing, that didn't do too well, that premiered 2 years ago in Gun. He made Happy Feet, he made Babe, the Twilight Zone movie, The Witches of Eastwick, and the rest is like half of his filmography is Mad Max at this point. But
I don't want to give the mantle to anyone. The only other person I could think that would have been even close was going to be James Cameron with the Avatar movies, but I'm pretty sure he said he doesn't want to do all the Avatar movies. Like, he wants to give it to somebody else after like 4 or after 3.
Yeah,
so
after 3, I
he
think
won't
so.
be the only director making the Avatar movies. So
well, he's saying that now,
and even
but-
his Terminator movies, they got given to somebody else. He did 1 and 2, and that's it.
and they stayed on the same quality ever since. It's been great.
Yup. There's no perfect director out there, okay? No director is perfect. Even if you are George Miller, you have some flops. But anyway, that's what I watched. I also watched a bunch of TV, just TV while in the background, but nothing important to note. Ewan, tell me, was Caine just as good without me?
No, it wasn't.
Thank you.
Short story. It was a lesser experience because I didn't get to hang out with you. That's like one of the things that I would look forward to the most. That I get to spend a bunch of time with you because we rarely get to see each other in person.
Fun of movies, yeah.
Yeah, and the little chats in between. I ended up catching up with a bunch of people that I've already seen around at festivals, and just basically, I guess, striking up a bit more conversations. So I ended up, like, randomly, I got seated next to Carsten Runquist, and I watched his stuff, like, a couple of years back. I haven't been as active as a viewer as of late, but we had, like, 20 minutes to kill before we watched one of the competition films, and, yeah, just a great guy. He was only there for, I think, 4 or 5 days, but I met him, met Justin from the Oscar Expert. He's brother bro. He was there for the first time. I met with Luke, another YouTuber. I met Matt Neglia. That's a hard thing to say. He's really big on with his own stuff that he's got going. And I was also sharing rooms with Chase Hutchinson. He's a writer. He definitely was more active. It's interesting to see because we do all of our stuff. We don't focus on the writing, and I feel like Gun is like a 77th edition, and the way that the ranking works with like the media is also if you're attached to like some bigger outlet that you write for, I feel like you get the higher passes. So someone like Carsten Runquist, who has a channel with like almost 1 million subscribers, he had the same level badge as I had. Whereas I think other people who write for, I guess, bigger outlets like Chase, whose work you can read in a Collider on IGN. He's writing for a bunch of different outlets, and you can recommend his stuff. It's actually his reviews were really insightful. So go give that a try. I'll link it below. But yeah, I even met up with the Letterboxd crew and was in my first Letterboxd video. Hopefully more to come later on. So that was another thing off the bucket list. And it was an eventful week. Like I said, I watched 64 films with a couple screeners in between. So it wasn't like I was in the theater for like over 6 movies a day. It's pretty impossible. But it was a busy time. I'd say last year, what did you say last year you thought like the theme was overall? I feel like we were trying to pinpoint down what the feel and theme was of that fest. Do you remember?
I felt last year was all about like fourth wall breaks. Like it was like every movie had a fourth wall break.
Yeah. That was less the case this year. Obviously, like the opening film, Le Deuxième Acte from Quentin Dupieux, was essentially a whole entire fourth wall break continuously. It was all right. It was a bit better than last year's opening film, Edebiri, which, by the way, is out this week on VOD, a year later. But I felt this year was incredibly packed with so much nudity and sex that was kind of like... I don't know,
Wait. A French festival full of nudity and sex?
I know. People were
that's
like...
crazy. How ridiculous.
People were like, this festival's always had a lot of like, that type of stuff, but it felt more prevalent in this. It felt like every single competition film I saw had at least one nude scene. There was like a lot of like just complete nude scenes. It felt like there was a focus on the body, and especially with a movie like The Substance being so high up and well received for something really grotesque in the body horror sphere. Just a lot of that. And other than that, I would say like the theme was just like a lot of underwhelming films overall. Like if I look at the of my ranking from last year, there's a couple films that I was pretty close to already giving it a 5-star after first watch. I don't think there's a ton of films that I'm really passionate about this year, unfortunately. And there's a couple of outliers that I don't expect to be as high up because I never knew anything about them. It's oftentimes like a first or second director's work. And a lot of the established filmmakers made some rather disappointing movies. And so that was a bit of a letdown, I think, overall. But yeah, Lachlan, you have my ranked list right here and maybe the lineup. I ended up watching all of Competition. I completed Out of Competition and Midnight as well. So yeah. Any questions you got about some of the films that played here?
Yeah, let's start with the big elephant in the room. The mega elephant in the room. The Megalopolis sized elephant. Megaflopolis, my god. So, for anyone who has been keeping up with any of the news coming out of Caine, I have not seen a movie this divisive in terms of ratings in a while. As an idea, I have five people that I know who have gone to Caine, and here are the numbers I've gotten out of it, right?
Yeah.
0.5 star, 1.5 stars, 4 stars, 2 stars, 4 stars. What the fuck? How can you have a movie made by, a fantastic director be this divisive? Like, what? Yeah. How are some people getting masterpiece? How are some getting flopper piece? Give me the insights.
I don't fucking know. Okay, so this movie is a complete mess from beginning to end. I read IndieWire is the one that was like probably, because it's David Ehrlich who wrote it, one of the biggest names of a film critic and film journalism. He was one of the biggest accounts on Letterboxd for a while. I feel like a lot of people are familiar with him, and he had a 4-star review for it for IndieWire. And I feel like I don't see a lot of other people like really putting it succinctly of why they think this movie is okay. I hear way more of like, this had potential and then it just completely flopped. I'm in the park of like, why did this take so long to make and it's so much of nothing? Like, this movie constantly throws stuff at you. There's probably the densest amount of unique camera choices and transitions and framing things that I've seen in a film maybe ever. But it's all in a purpose for nothing. It all adds up to nothing. It all goes in a circle that is from beginning to end pretty meaningless, but it wants to be something bigger. It also feels like it's in part, really close to Coppola's own experience for like a guy who wants to build a utopia but is misunderstood by the more conventional ways that is played by Giancarlo Esposito and Adam Driver in the lead role. So you have a ton of talent. If you look at the cast, it's probably the craziest cast of especially like older gentlemen in this film. And none of them seem to be in the same movie. None of them seem to be in the same scene. The line readings feel like they were just practicing still, but they filmed it already, and that's what they had. It's a mess. I've seen some people praise Aubrey Plaza because her like deadpan kind of style that we've grown accustomed to fits the ridiculousness of how bad the scenes are in the film, how camp they are. I don't even think she's a redeeming factor. I was the one who gave it a half star. Maybe I'm slightly underrating it here. I don't even think she's a redeeming factor. I was the one who gave it a half star. Maybe I'm slightly underrating it here, just because I was so mad at the film. Like, I kept shaking my head. I couldn't stand the film. I am definitely going to rewatch it because it has like that big moment that people were talking about, where like someone goes on stage and then interacts with the film, which was I was in a smaller theater. I wasn't in one of the bigger ones to watch it, and it was so incredibly awkward when that happened, and it didn't add anything to it. It was just confusing and dumb. He wants to do something unique here, and I feel like the people who have been praising him for it is because it felt like, ooh, this is a breath of fresh air, and someone's breathing life into film when, dude, look closer into the mouth. There's a rotten core there. His teeth are all foul, and it stinks. Even if he's breathing very hardly, it seems like it's more of old age than it is of something truly innovative. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Megalopolis. I got some more. I still haven't written like a proper review for it.
Okay.
My God.
That's fine. There's not really much more to talk about here. Let's go straight to the other end. Anora?
Okay.
Do you want to tell me a bit about that? That's your highest rated flick of the festival?
So I'm a huge fan of Sean Baker. I think that Red Rocket was such a blast. I still haven't seen Tangerine and the Florida Project. After this, I'm so keen now that he's won the Palme d'Or.
I've seen Florida Project.
Yeah, a lot of people have, and it's like one of the films that I don't know why I still haven't gotten around to it, but Mikey Madison in this film is is great. It's like another film where maybe the sex is the main theme of the festival to me, because like at least the movies that I like the best also have a lot of, there's no correlation here, but also have a lot of nudity. But she plays like a young sex worker who becomes involved with a spoiled Russian son of a billionaire, and they end up marrying quickly, and then the family's not too happy about it and wants to break it up. This movie had me howling. It is so incredibly entertaining and funny. It's raunchy. It's got some pretty despicable characters from lead to supporting, but then you're also rooting for them. It's a blast from beginning to end. This is going to be in my top 5 by the end of the year, for sure, if not higher. It's great.
Damn. Okay, sweet. And let's go somewhere in the middle. Let's get something that... Okay, two films that I had on my radar. I had the Shrouds on my radar because I heard it was I thought the premise was quite interesting. Yay, nay?
I would lean more towards nay, although I'm straight down the middle for it, and a 2.5 out of 5. I think it has some odd performances that don't really work. Vincent Cassel is like an incredible actor. Cronenberg has worked with him a bunch of times before, but something about this just doesn't really add up. Maybe it's also something that maybe I just didn't connect with, and it works better if you look at it through more of like I don't know, you're going in with already having an expectation set of someone breaking it down for you, and maybe there's more to enjoy there. As a raw film first experience, it was a bit lackluster to me. But the premise overall is interesting, of like these shrouded covered bodies that you can look through and monitor, and it's all about like death and letting go, and it's not as much about grief as maybe some people thought it would end up being about. It turns more into like, how do you deal with grief, and it doesn't really dive into maybe a character study, but more just looking at what they would end up doing and being more caught up with what they're doing than their process of their grief, if that makes sense. He's made some better films though, but it's worth seeing, even if it's not one that I'd say is great.
And speaking of people who have made better films, because I feel like this is one of the averagely lower rated films, Paul Schrader's O Canada. What did you think?
Yeah, so shout out to Chase again. He said that like each time you meet someone, he gives them a book. And I guess we didn't meet before. This was my first time seeing him. And he gave me the book that O Canada is based on. So I'm going to read this before I make my review for it. I got to chew through it. And it's essentially an adaptation of this, with Jacob Elordi playing the younger guy of this, I guess, on documentary filmmaker on his deathbed, played by Richard Gere. From what Chase has told me, it's a pretty close adaptation of this book. I think the ending is a bit different, but this movie, a lot of people didn't like it at all. I feel like there's a lot of people who say like, "Oh, a Megalopolis at least had something to show for it. This feels like Schrader just had a messy movie on his hands." I felt like there was enough for me to enjoy it, where I was giving it a bit of leeway when maybe it was a bit lackluster. It's like thrown together of someone who basically makes a confession about all the cheating, the wrong things he's done in life, in like a documentary form, done by some of his previous students. He's also married to his previous student, played by Uma Thurman. It suffers a bit from the adaptation problem, where some of the stuff just feels like it doesn't translate perfectly onto screen. I hope the book is a bit better, but it ends up like jumping around in memory quite a bit, where you like at a later point in Jacob Elordi playing Richard Gere's character's life, where like you jump around his teens to way later in his 30s and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be that way, that it feels like this inconclusive end point that is told from a guy who's suffering from old age and dementia in a way. But it's not like something like The Father, where it visualizes that perfectly. I feel like it ultimately, because it's flashbacks, is not entirely clear about the visual language that it wants to tell these contradictions with. I still had a good time with it. I maybe slightly overrated it with a 3.5 out of 5. But it's another one that I'd like to revisit after I watched the book. I felt about that with like most of the films, that at least they weren't a second viewing.
Yeah, sweet.
Anything else, or
Nope, I just gotta wait for the next 12 months for them to slowly come out.
Yeah, I think the other big thing that I do want to give a shout out to is The Substance from Coralie Forget. Probably butchering her name, but I sent her a message on Twitter, just told her that the movie was amazing, and she responded to me briefly, so that was nice. She's active on Twitter. And her first, I don't know if it was her first film. Yeah, no, it was her first film, Revenge. I also watched in the lead up of the festival. What you can see in her directing style there is that sound design is incredibly important to her. Like visceral, really loud, gross sound effects. And that one was a revenge film where there's like the occasional guy being shot, or she's pierced from a big fall onto a tree branch. But The Substance is entirely body horror, and the sounds are persistent. I had my heart beating to a degree where I thought like I wouldn't be surprised if someone in the theater right now has a heart attack. It was that intense, and I wanted it to end, but I also wanted it to never end. It was a thrill, my second favorite of the festival. Another story that might be interesting is that Mohamed Rasuluf, who was arrested in Iran for making previous films. He's also made like There Is No Evil, which is an incredible collection of, I think, 5 different loosely collected anthology stories set in Iran. Has made a film, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, which is a really well-made like family drama where like the dad is part of the inside regime. He's a lawyer prosecuting people and sending them death sentences, and then his gun is lost, and maybe one of his daughters has taken it because they are obviously opposed to the regime, and his wife is more on his side. And then you slowly see this family crumble, and like they slowly grow more antagonistic towards each other. And it's obviously like very real. I mean, there's a warrant for his arrest. He fled the country to be in Cannes. And I wasn't even sure when they announced the film and when the festival started if he'll be able to come. And this movie reminded me the most of like last year's About Dry Grasses, where the first hour I wasn't in for it. I was like, okay, it's building. It also didn't help that I had like 3 Russian or Ukrainian women all dressed up, because I went to the actual premiere for it, where the director was attending. I had them in front of me, and they were all dressed up, and they were on their phone for the entire first hour of the film, and then they left, and I was almost ready. You know, people clap in Cannes. You remember this? I was so ready to clap them out of the theater, because they were incredibly annoying. So that didn't help my first hour of the film. But then in the second half or the second 2/3, because the movie's almost 3 hours long, it really is strong, and it flies by the time. It's in 168 minutes, and really flies by. But the rest I'll cover in a separate video. I'll talk about every single film that I watched, like the Donald Trump film or Bird from Andrea Arnold. There was a lot of interesting stuff. Noemi Merlan made. The Balconettes was another fun film. So a lot to talk about still. But we'll do that in another forum, because otherwise we'll go way over time. But we already are in our recording here at an hour. So Lachlan, let's talk about the film that also played in Gunn, the 5th film in the franchise, and with George Miller returning as a very steady guiding hand for this film series in Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
As the world fell, young Furiosa is snatched from the green place of many mothers and falls into the hands of the great biker horde led by the warlord Dementus. Sweeping through the wasteland, they come across the Citadel, presided over by the Immortan Joe. While the two tyrants war for dominance, Furiosa must survive many trials as she puts together the means to find her way home.
It's a good one. Definitely more story than Fury Road had, which is, I guess, known for, hey, it's mainly just one really long chase scene. This movie takes place over a couple decades, from young Furiosa to an older one. I gotta say, as the guy who usually hates on the kid performances, Alila Brown, who plays young Furiosa, that was an incredible performance. She really nailed that, and then the rest of the cast also really fun, but we'll get into that in a bit. The movie is flying by with 2 hours and 30 minutes of runtime. It doesn't feel that long at all, if I'm being honest. It still has a ton of action, even if it's definitely more plot-centered than it is action first. There's some incredible action scenes, especially one that we have to talk about a bit more in detail. So far, it opened on Letterboxd with a 4.0 rating. That's incredibly high. On IMDb, an 8 as well, and on Metacritic, a 79. So the people in Gunn liked it, the critics liked it, which I guess are the people in Gunn. Everyone that has seen it so far on the opening weekend liked it. Lachlan, you brought in the budget numbers. Apparently, it's 168 million. Is that correct?
Yep.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a production hell for a long time, so a lot of money is spent and nothing actually happens. So that can, and also there was a lawsuit, so they could just be adding the lawsuit money into this as well. I don't know.
Hopefully they do, and they make a return on it. I would hate for this to, I guess, not make enough money to secure again another film in this franchise. It comes from Warner Brothers and Universal. It's a co-production. I didn't know that. I thought it was just Warner Brothers. But I guess Universal is distributing it. Where did you get that information?
I found Universal was distributing it in Australia.
Ah, okay. Well, Warner Brothers just drawing the short end of the stick when it comes down under, which is odd because it is an Australian film. Also, I don't know. I didn't look this up. Do they still shoot the film in Australia mainly, or where? Do they shoot
so the only exception is Fury Road, and that was because where they were filming, they had flooding, so it was it was greener than usual. But yes, it was shot Broken Hill, I believe it is where they shoot it.
Ah, okay, yeah. So you got a couple more specs before we get into review. Lachlan, you want to keep it spoiler free?
Yeah, no, I thought I'd just bring it up. I thought I'd just bring up the fact that they shot it on the RLX 65, but they also shot it on a Red Komodo and the Raptor, which are two really like compact cameras with the Reds, which is obviously how they got some of these really tighter shots. I just thought it would be really cool to talk about that. And from what I saw on IMDb, they were shot with these really cool prime DNA lenses, which have a nice little look to them.
Yeah.
Hasselblad. That was found on IMDb. I was trying to find some more information about it, but I really couldn't find much. But I just thought it was some really interesting stuff, because this film is obviously quite a visual feast, and I thought that we could get into some of the the visual and audible and technical stuff in the non-spoiler review before we get into the real spoilery stuff.
For sure, yeah. We definitely both recommend you go check out the film yourself. But if you're not sure yet and you want to hear our thoughts a bit before we talk spoilers, then maybe let's talk about that stuff that was shown in the trailers and had some reasons to concern for a lot of people, me included a bit, because it reminded me of 3,000 Years of Longing that had like this odd CGI look that I wasn't the biggest fan of. I know it was definitely intentional by how intentional George Miller as a filmmaker is. That was what he envisioned. Maybe it wasn't greatest. Now in this one, yeah, there was concern. Hey, it's not as incredibly crazy as Fury Road is going to be when it comes to the action and how much of it is going to be practical. So there's going to be more CGI, also just by the medium growing bigger and becoming more easy to use. It just makes sense to use more CGI. Was that anything that took away from the film for you, or did it still feel as practical as I guess the rest of the films in this franchise have felt like?
Yeah, so obviously it's a bit of a departure, and there are still some practical elements in the film. Don't think that they just ripped everything out, whacked them onto a green screen. But first things first, Miller's getting older in age, so he's probably not going to be as versatile to go out and shoot on location as much as he was able to when he was younger, especially looking like 10 years ago. And I think that CGI is super important. And remember, when people think about practical action, they think about Fury Road, but Fury Road is very practical, but it is enhanced with CGI. And there are some very heavy CGI moments in Fury Road, and there are some really botched CGI moments in Fury Road that don't look that great. In Furiosa, there's a lot more CGI. However, I don't think it takes away from the overall action, but I will tell you where it does take away the most. And that's the profile of the picture. This is going to come a bit more into the visual stuff, because when you have to light something where it's going to have a digital background in place, the lighting is quite flat. So what ends up happening is the image that we get, the lighting is a little bit off for our characters compared to what is actually presented in the background, and your brain can kind of see that. And there are definitely films that do a better job at this than others, but this film didn't really do a good job for that. So it was less the fact that it was CGI for action and more the fact that it was CGI backgrounds which really didn't match the lighting that was set up on characters, which ended up making the image look a lot flatter. You get a really deep image with the practical effects done with Fury Road, and you get that with the other films, where this, even though there were practical elements, because of the digitalness of the background in scenes, it's often a flat image, and it doesn't really give you that depth that you're looking for. So even though it's pretty and it looks cool, it's not really a great picture. So unfortunately, the CGI action, yeah, that's fine. I'm totally cool with it. I thought the action scenes were great. It was actually just the normal, like the standard shots of background which really got me.
You wrote down center framing. Am I correct to assume that you feel like there's a lot of like, hey, there's one character in frame or maybe two characters in frame, but there's no depth in the frame compared to something like being on the war rig in Fury Road, where you got all the brides in the background and you have Charlize, and you got why am I blanking on his name?
Tom Hardy,
exactly. You got them in there, and it constantly is like swiveling the camera around to give you a different perspective, and there's also someone underneath. There's less of that happening. Is that what you felt?
So the center framing thing is a technique that Miller's using in the film. It's a lot better used in Fury Road because of how much action happens and how much is happening on scene. He actually makes the majority of the action happen in the center part of the frame, which means your eyes don't have to move. So this film still uses a lot of that, where a lot of the film takes place in the center and you don't have to worry about the rest of the world happening on the outside. So the center framing part is just a technique that he's used.
Yeah, I saw the interview that Letterboxd published with him. He was talking about like guiding the eye and how natural it is to him. It's always a big focus.
He's a visual storyteller, and he's really good at that. And I think that those techniques that he's using are really good. So those central framing moments are quite good. You get the classic sort of pushing
Hero
shot from a
Yeah.
wide into the character, which is really awesome. And you get that really like fun sort of, and if you watch it carefully, you notice that a lot of the shots are sped up, like just the tiniest amount, right? They're not sped up a major amount,
Fury
but the
Road had
characters
that
are
too,
moving
yeah.
a little bit too quickly, and it's just
Yeah.
the look of that is Mad Max in a way, because you have that with the original trilogy and you have that here with the current newer films as well. But you really see the technical skill of him with that center framing, with overall him using that in action moments and then going away from it when it comes to really capturing landscape. There's that great moment where Furiosa exits the war rig and it just does a 360 degree of the landscape. And it just
Yeah.
shows her in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And you just take it in, you're just like, there's nothing. Where is she going to? And it was like the perfect like use of the camera moving around. And when he's using the practical camera, it's great. The moment that it takes you out is when the camera moves in an unnatural way. And you get a lot of that with the CGI action and that's the only part of the CGI that took me out, was the unnatural camera movements moving from one area of like this computer generated image to another. Like it just moves and it's just like a camera wouldn't be able to go from there down to here with all of this action happening. You get a really locked off shot with Fury Road and you don't have that in this film. So a lot of the action is great, but sometimes feels unbelievable at points. But you get these really awesome visual moments where he takes the camera, he moves it around Furiosa, you see how barren the wasteland is. And another really good visual moment is towards the end of the film where the showdown finally happens between Furiosa and Dementus. And visually, for the entirety of the film, you see landscape. You see a lot of what's happening in the background, but he ends up putting them in a dust storm so that there is no background. You are solely focusing on the characters. And I think what's really important to remember with this film over the other Mad Max, or at least with Fury Road in particular, this is a heavy revenge film. It is heavily about narrative. It's heavily about these characters compared to the actual action that's happening on scene. And that is a clear departure from what people are probably expecting going into this film, seeing Fury Road.
Yeah, do you want to talk about anything else before we get into, like, you already teased, I guess, kind of spoilery talk towards the end there, but I feel like it's fine. I mean, it's obviously a character that doesn't pop up in the later films, so, you know, his fate is to be assumed.
Shocker,
And,
right?
You know, yeah, and that's not really what this is about ultimately, which is a smart choice to do. I feel like we can talk about spoilers, and I guess the journey of Furiosa, of her, I guess, getting ready to escape from the Citadel in Fury Road. I guess being dragged in, showing her whole backstory of the, like, what's it called again? Like the place that she's taken from.
The
From the
green place.
just the green place. It's simple. It's just it's Aussie, of course. It's just the green.
We're
place 'cause it's
Australians. We
green.
don't complicate things.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. And ultimately, like, you know, that comes full circle in Fury Road, where the green place doesn't exist anymore. And I feel like this movie gets to explore the other places a bit more with Gastown, Bullet Farm, less the Citadel. I don't feel like we get a lot of the Citadel, and then also the myth that Dementus creates around himself and how that crumbles and ultimately like dies down as he dies with it. But it happens before that, and it's just a spectacular revenge film with a lot of great action set pieces where you're obviously rooting for the main character the whole time. Just a solid all-around film. I don't really have a lot of complaints. I think, like you, I also really enjoyed the music. I think the score was great. And another shout out goes to the sound design that really pairs well with the editing as well, of how much there's going on. And like, that was another strong thing about Fury Road, how it always felt like an impact on the decisions that characters make. And you can feel it, you can sense it, you could hear it, all of it, you could experience it. And this movie just basically picks up where Fury Road has left off, or where it's going to lead into Fury Road. And also think you got a great cast here. The only person who I was a bit like on the fence or like was questioning the inclusion was Tom Burke as Praetorian Jack, because it felt like we need a character that needs to be taken away from Furiosa. And I don't know if it completely needed that, because as an audience, we obviously know that this dude is a red shirt. He's going to die. And maybe he's not even going to be witnessed. So yeah, I don't know. I was a bit on the fence about that one. But yeah, what did you think about all of it with spoiler talk?
So you talk about editing. Shout out to George Miller's wife, Margaret Sexel, I think it is, editor of the movie, along with Elliot Kapman.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool to see a wife-husband combo in the industry, like editing the movies that they make together and then going home and having to live together. So good on them for working and being romantic together. It's really fun to see that. But to get into spoiler talk, I talked about how this film is a revenge film, which means it's going to obviously depart from what made Fury Road Fury Road, and Fury Road is an action movie, not a revenge movie. So the elements and design of that film are going to be inherently different. And I think the biggest departure from the rest of the franchise that this film does, which I'm slowly coming around to enjoying, but right now I'm sitting in the boat that I don't, and that is chapters.
Yeah.
Chapters. There's 5 chapters. Chapter 1, the Pole of Inaccessibility. Chapter 2, Lessons from the Wasteland. Chapter 3, The Stowaway. Chapter 4, Homeward. And Chapter 5, Beyond Vengeance. Mad Max films are all about pacing. They're all about the thrill, and Fury Road is a fantastic example of perfect pacing, in my opinion, because even when its low moments are happening, it's not like it's taking a massive break. It's giving you that moment to breathe before it kicks back off again. But when you chapterize something, there is a clear pause and break. Now, I get it. You're telling the story of Furiosa. Furiosa was a child. Now she's a grown-ass adult. You can't really tell that if you're going to be telling it in like a nice consecutive way. There are ways of doing time jumps, obviously, without just making it a chapter. But it felt like this was I don't want to say cheaper way out, but it's the only way that I can kind of say it, is like they decided to go, all right, cool, let's do chapters instead of making a cooler transition to make it flow a bit better. And it's some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, but personally, I just don't think it fits with the Mad Max way, where you kind of want to keep that momentum going. You don't want to stop the engine, right? You don't want to stall the engine. You just want to keep the engine going. And unfortunately, I just feel like chapterizing it does that. And when that first chapter came up, I was like, okay, I'll ignore it for now. By the 3rd chapter, The Stowaway, I realized something. I realized the analogy that I'm going to use.
Mm-hmm.
What did I say about Dune 2?
Lots of things.
I said we wouldn't be able to do Dune 2 without Dune Part 1.
Yeah.
Because Part 1 is world building, it's slow, it's character focused. Dune 2 is action. They did it in order. George Miller is not. He did Fury Road first, and now has decided to go back and do Furiosa second. This entire film is a setup for Fury Road, which means 2 things. The action can probably get to as good, but can't be better than Fury Road, because that takes place after advancements, obviously after time, and there's these characters, right? So you can't really have, technology that doesn't exist yet. You can. You can't be going, oh, cool, we used to have these people who swing on poles, but then we realized that was really dangerous, so we stopped doing that now. Here are people who fly, right? They can't do that because in Fury Road, those pole people exist. So they have a restriction of where they can kind of go, right? So they have to introduce new characters, have to introduce new things. So what I realized is this film is essentially going, here's the setup, here's the character and depth that you need to go into Fury Road and enjoy it more. Because let me tell you, as someone who just watched Mad Max 1, 2, and 3, Furiosa, and then Fury Road, my God, how fucking good is Fury Road? And it is really, really good when you have way more character knowledge of Furiosa. Mm-hmm. And it's fucking great. But that means this film lives in the shadow of Fury Road. It's never going to reach the same heights. So I say that it reaches the same heights when it comes to sound, editing, visuals are a slight step down, narrative is a step up, and action is a step down, but it's never going to be to the same degree as what Fury Road is. It's living in that shadow. And the thing is, it was never meant to compete with Fury Road. It's an add-on to Fury Road. This is meant to be watched as one big film.
Which is why I'm a bit surprised that I don't see any double feature showings for this film anywhere, which is just they're missing out. What are they doing?
I don't know what they're doing.
Definitely should be doing.
And the part that really drove that home for me, right? The part that really drove home, this film is living in the shadow of its sequel, of its film that came before it, is in the credits, okay?
Yeah.
Because what do they show in the credits?
Clips
They
from
show
Fury
stills
Road.
and clips from Fury Road. It's living in the shadow of the film that is bigger and better than it because it was made before it, and this is the film to add on to it. I'm not necessarily saying that this is a bad film. I'm just saying this film had a pretty bad foot forward, right? They did Dune 1 so they could do Dune 2. They didn't do Furiosa to then do Fury Road. They've just done it in the wrong order, and I think
But do you think they could have done it other way around? You know?
I don't know. I think
if
Furiosa came out first, I don't think it would have been as successful because I feel like people would have people were already mad that Furiosa was the main character compared to Max in Fury Road. If they were just to straight up forget about Max and do that little subtle reference and then bring Max back in Fury Road, it wouldn't have probably gotten off the ground. And it's a weird thing because this is the only thing about this film which is not making it a perfect 5-star. And you said this with your Caine movies, is that you know on the rewatch which one of these films are probably going to be 5 stars. I don't think this film is ever going to get to 5 stars for me. I think that it literally just can't get to. It's 4.5.
Yeah. Which is still like if you say it doesn't live up to, I'd say top 5, maybe top 3 action movies of all time. Fury Road, one of the best films ever made. Then it's like that's a steep thing to clear.
That's a
if
hill.
It's even close to that, that's really impressive. And I just thought this movie had the potential to fall flat, for Chris Hemsworth to just not work in this over the top. Like he's playing a different kind of Australian. He said he combined, I think his uncle, like great uncle or something like that he heard talk back in the day. The voice that he puts on, the over the top characters, the bizarre world. Maybe if you look closer into that, when you focus more on the story, on the characters, over just them killing each other and chasing each other, that it all falls apart. But it doesn't, which makes it to me really impressive that it is able to sustain being looked at under a bit more of a microscope, a bit closer. And I like the expansion of the world building that we get to see, Bullet Farm and stuff like that. I wish we had seen even more of Dementis, because I feel like over the years, as he fades more into the background and Furiosa is like getting bigger and bigger within the Citadel, able to take him on, then he becomes lesser of a focus because he's also fading away in popularity around the wasteland, which does make sense in a narrative sense. But I still wish we had gotten a bit more out of him, and he ends up being a bit one note until we get that final standoff where he has like a big old monologue all about like revenge, where I feel like the only time where chapters are like needed or like good, to sum it up, it's beyond vengeance. I feel like I would have liked it more if the movie like basically ended and he puts like epilogue beyond vengeance, and that's the whole thing, as if the whole succeeding in getting your revenge is an afterthought of what it ultimately means for Furiosa. But I would just go away. Like I would put away the chapters. I don't think they're necessary either. Instead of just having one thing of like, 20 years later, or he wouldn't do that. So I feel like it's a way to go around that, but it ultimately does the same thing, if not something worse, by having like summaries and closing chapters that way. But yeah, what did you think about that like ending, which I felt like went on for quite a while, where like Hemsworth is talking and talking and talking and talking. Does it get too much? Has it earned like that big monologue ending at the end?
Absolutely not. He did not talk too much. He talked just the right amount, because I was really worried, and I shouldn't be, because we're talking about George Miller, who is a fantastic director, knows what he's doing, and I should never have doubted him, because he set up one of the best one of the best payoffs I've had in recent movie watching experience, and that is with the seed that is given to Furiosa by her mother, that is throughout the entire film that we see. And I just, what are they going to do with this? It's just, they're finally going to plant that seed somewhere, and it's going to be great for them to build up to this ending, which, as I said earlier, sandstorm, you can't see any background, you're solely focused on the conversation between Furiosa and Dementus, which, by the way, Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Hemsworth, absolutely destroy it. Hemsworth in particular is a notable shout out. He did a fantastic job, in my opinion. I think stole the show for me.
He's cast wrong in a lot of stuff. He's capable to do a lot.
Oh yeah,
100%.
He can do range.
Yeah.
To have that ending where they're having the conversation and for them to kind of become the same. He says, "I have lost people too," but he has let go of this thing that she is holding on to. And that's the key difference between these two characters. And for them to kind of come to the agreeance of that they are the same after he goes on this fantastic monologue, by the way. He does a fantastic job. He goes through the different ranges that he can do as a actor to then end on them going with a narrator, which I thought, oh, here we go, going, here is how he said he would die. Here is actually what people said he might have died by. But this is actually what happened. And to see him, be killed in those ways and then revealed to be sitting on top of the Citadel with that seed planted in him is one of the best twists, ending, payoff reveals that I've had in a while. And I just went, that was worth it. That was so enjoyable to see that setup come all the way full circle. And that, because obviously, as you said, he's not in Fury Road, so I knew he was going to die, but they don't kill him. They do something even better, and I found that really, really enjoyable.
So I guess to explain it to someone who maybe, I guess it's pretty self-explanatory, but basically the green grows out of him for the Citadel, essentially.
He has the seed planted in his groined area, and there's a tree growing out of him in a naked body on top of the Citadel. Yeah. And he has water dripping on his mouth. He's probably fed the food. He's somehow still alive in this crazy world, where anything can pretty much happen. And that's the ending of the film, and that's Furiosa's revenge. And then it literally leads into Fury Road, and that's the ending of the film. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, the transition from Anya Taylor-Joy to Charlize Theron is a bit like, they do it well with like how good you could do it, as good a job as you could. But I mean, they don't look alike at all, which in Mad Max is like the one franchise where I feel like that's okay, just because it's always about, especially ending on the Dementus ending of like, this is what people say, the myth or whatever, this is what actually happened. Because like the Mad Max character has always been such a myth of like a guy that's just kind of there, that like each of the first 3 Mad Max films, it could be someone entirely different. It's all played by Mel Gibson, but there's nothing that really ties them together in an overarching way. And this is the first one that really connects, I guess, 2 films to each other. But having that whole mythology around it, I feel like you get away with it. Although they obviously kind of look nothing alike. Which is maybe just because Anya Taylor-Joy has such a unique face with like huge eyes, and she can play a lot with that. I think there's some like the thing that they use for the poster where she's at the bullet farm and the fire is cast around her is a really strong imagery. As far as action scenes go, do you have a highlight, or like the movie's also pretty brutal?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the action scene with the flying characters. I thought that was quite visually fun. Yeah. But I also really enjoyed the what was it? What's it called?
One of the places, or
yeah, I can't remember what it's called now.
The gas town.
There was like the gas town riot moment, and not really for the action, but the you see in Hemsworth's face him losing control, and he's wanting to regain the control. That was just a fun little sequence. That was my little favorite sequence, because I was like, oh, okay, there's actually going to be disruption here. So I really enjoyed that, but mostly that first action scene with the team that left Hemsworth's group and was flying was just, I was like, okay, we're back in Fury Road action territory. Let's go.
I feel like they at least had to have like one of those moments in. It's like, okay, that's the thing that everyone's going to talk about. To me, I think the favorite moment was just that like the arm or the hand dangling. It's like okay, cool, and like how grotesque it was when she got a arm like in between there. It felt like this was obviously like, hey, this is the moment where they call him Han Solo, and that's where he gets his name. And this is the moment that you can go to, oh, Soy Jack, that's when it happens. Here, it like the moment where she injures her hand that way as well, in that crazy way. It happens so quickly that it's not made like a big. You obviously realize what's happening.
Yeah, and you go, this is it. This is how it happened.
It just happened,
yeah.
And you weren't ready for it, as the character wasn't ready for it. It's not like I am going to chop off your hand right now, and it's going to be something that is in a different movie later on that you all know. Wink at the camera. So great moment there. I feel like all of that was it was entertaining from beginning to end. And another movie where I didn't really feel like the runtime was incredibly like long. It didn't feel long. I felt like it had a lot to offer in all of its 5 or 6 chapters. 5 chapters, I think. 5. Anything else you wanted to add to Furiosa?
No, I don't think I really have much else to say.
Yeah, just Rictus, Erectus, and Scrotus as the sons of Morton Jack. It's just
Morton Jack.
Yeah.
Who's Morton Jack?
Wait, what did I say?
You said Morton Jack. His name is Morton Joe.
Joe, sorry. So Joe and Jack.
I like Morton Jack though. Yeah, all the same.
Praetorian Jack is that's the Tom Burke character. That's why I messed it up there. Anyways, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. Lachlan, you said it's the same for you, right?
4.5. Yep.
If you were to pair it up with another film, what would you choose? I got a good one for this one.
Oh, you do? Do you want to say yours?
Sure, yeah. I feel like this is such a revenge film that it just makes sense to pair another female-led revenge film up with it, and that's Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill Volume, I guess 1 and 2, or the one where they cut it together. I don't care. Just those films. They're great revenge films.
Or the one where they cut it together.
Have you ever watched it in like one go, or?
I haven't. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, me neither.
So we want to talk about a strong female lead in a science fiction movie.
Alien?
There's only one that I could really think of, and you got it right there. I'm going to do Aliens.
Aliens, okay. Yeah.
Aliens.
Because it's no, Aliens takes place after Alien. It would have been perfect if it's a sequel that is also a prequel at the same time, which just makes it a prequel, I guess, not a sequel. But let's just make it complicated for the sake of being complicated.
I could do Prometheus, because Prometheus obviously takes place.
Any of the Alien films a revenge film, or? I was thinking about Terminator 2 as well.
All of them have revenge in them. Best revenge
of the
films.
Jedi.
Sith? I like it.
Sith, yeah.
Best revenge films: Kill Bill 1, Kill Bill 2. Okay, fucking shocker. Memento, The Crow, Gladiator, Man on Fire, Payback, Old Boy, Taken, Cape Fear, Commando, Munich, Mad Max, Death Wish, Leon the Professional. Give me something. Let me go. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 50.
37.
37. My double feature is A Time to Kill.
Is that a James Bond?
Joel Schumacher, hell yeah. Matthew McConaughey, Sandra Bullock, and Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
There you go. That's my double feature.
I'll have to look that up. I don't know this one. But yeah, that's a double feature time. Then because we didn't do it last week, there's a bunch of films that I guess we're gonna mention that are out now in theaters. We didn't end up talking about If, Imaginary Friends. Apparently that one wasn't that great. I'll try and catch up with it this week. Then, of course, you can go see Furiosa now in theaters, as well as Garfield. I did watch that one I would skip it unless you're someone who likes Minions, then maybe this was made for you. Then, in a violent nature expands wide in the States. I only see a US release date. I checked for you, Lachlan, as well. Doesn't seem like there's an Australian release date for that one, where we follow the killer kind of over the shoulder as he does a bunch of killings, and it's pretty somber and it's not much going on. Looks really intriguing, something truly groundbreaking. Show it to Francis Ford Coppola. Maybe he has got some better ideas the next time he takes 30 years and spends $300 million. Anyways, out on VOD, we have a couple new things like the third season of Bridgerton that's taking the world by storm. I still haven't caught up with any of it. Lachlan, I feel like you've seen. Have you seen a bit of it? Am I remembering that correctly? No.
Oh,
Your girlfriend
yes.
not into it?
I have. No, she is. I've seen it
course.
because of that, but I don't
Yeah.
pay attention. I kind of lose interest.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was considering because Netflix sent me the screeners for it, and I was like, I didn't even ask for it. They were like, "Hey, want to cover this?" It's like,
They were like, "Hey,
don't
you
know
horny
if I'm the-
bastard, do you want to watch Bridgerton?" And you were like,
Is it-
"Oh fuck, no, I'm not me."
I haven't seen any of it, but I guess there's some sex, I believe, in it, and it's like, okay, you got me. I'll watch it. But no, something
Yes, I believe.
I'm not looking forward to watching, although I probably will, is Jennifer Lopez in Atlas. The ratings have been horrendous so far, so hey, it's going to be right up my alley to waste my time
Can't
with.
wait.
Then I got some screeners for Eric. That's out on May 30th on Netflix as well. That's Benedict Cumberbatch in the lead role there. Then Challenges is already out on premium VOD. You can catch that on Prime later on, probably in a month or two. Then finally, we've been praising it for a long time. About Dry Grasses is streaming on the Criterion channel. I'll hopefully make time for set aside 4 hours to, I guess, rewatch this one and give it a proper attention that it deserves. Yeah, I got the Criterion channel. I feel like you get a lot of stuff over there that if you have like a month that you want to get it to, I guess, catch up with a bunch of classics, they do have a ton of those over there. And they even add some exclusives like About Dry Grasses from time to time. Then The Fall Guy is on premium VOD, as well as the opening film of last year's Cannes Film Festival, where Lachlan, we both watched Jean de Barry. I didn't say this before, but I saw the director and lead actress of it this year. Mywin. I didn't talk to her though, but she was standing next to me after screening. But the movie we both didn't really like, and I guess it took about a year for it to come out properly. I think it was in theaters here for a while. I remember that. It probably also played in the States, but now you can catch it on premium VOD. Although, luckily, I think neither of us could recommend you should end up watching that one. And yeah, it's also not an essential Johnny Depp performance. Stress Positions that played at Sundance is out on premium VOD as well. It's been getting reviews that are kind of all over the place. I'll report back next week for that. And then Civil War is also, I guess it's been in theaters for a while now, but that's out on premium VOD, as well as The Beach Boys over on Disney+. Then out later this week on May 28th is Boy Kills World. I'll catch up with that, although Lachlan, you didn't have anything positive to say about the film. I'll have to see for myself. Then another gun film from last year, The Feeling That the Time for Doing Something Has Passed, is out on VOD, so without that premium surcharge. I feel like it's a passable film. It's all right, but yeah, if you're interested by that weirdly, intriguingly long title, then go give it a try, as well as Pool Man. That one has been getting only bad reviews. It's one of the reasons why it's not even getting a premium VOD title, so you will be able to rent it for like $5 straight away. And then lastly, on streaming, we do have Jim Henson Idea Man over on Disney+, the creator behind Sesame Street and what's it called, Muppets. I didn't grow up with the Muppets as much, and I guess Sesame Street and all that, but still, Jim Henson, really interesting person, so I might check out this documentary. Then out in limited release in the States is Handling the Undead, another Sundance film that there were high expectations. It probably didn't meet the expectations that everyone had for it, but yeah, Renate Reinsve was, by the way, in another gun film, Almond, where she was one of the highlights. She's a great actress, maybe the reason alone to go check out Handling the Undead if it's playing near you. And then the Spanish Oscar-nominated animated film Robot Dreams is finally out in the States in limited release as well. So go give it a try if you can. In Switzerland, we do have the movie Sterben, which is called Dying. Apparently, like one of the rare occasions where there's a good German film out when usually that industry is a bit lackluster. I'll try and make time for that myself. And then, Lachlan, for you, maybe you have a chance to go see The Raid in a 4K restoration, or I guess in, not a restoration because it's not like it's been lost, but just a 4K version of The Raid is playing in theaters for you, as well as Twilight of the Warriors Walled In. I saw this one in Gun as well. They played in the Midnights category or out of competition. I can't remember. Anyhow, it's a very entertaining action crime film set in Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken. So, another film worth checking out. And that's it for the week. We haven't decided on what we'll be covering next week. Maybe we do a bit of a spring cleaning thing where we catch up with some stuff that we've missed. We'll see. Maybe we'll talk even about Madam Web, although I feel like it's just an ongoing joke that, hey, next week we're going to talk about Madam Web, but we'll ultimately never get around to it.
Never cover it.
Yeah, Lachlan, anything else you wanted to add for next week, for this week? Sending the people out into the wasteland?
Don't go into the wasteland. Please don't.
Drink enough water, and hopefully we'll see you back next week with both of your hands left. But hey, you got one thumb that you can press for the thumbs up. Bye.
Bye.